Yo, what's up? My name's Patrouski, and I'll be the first to say that making Pokeyen in PokeMMO has felt a lot harder recently. Certain things have been nerfed, rates are down, and the markets are a bit slower as we're in between events. During event season, people are saving their Pokeyen up for the Christmas event. Things like catching for profit aren't nearly as profitable as they used to be and are arguably dead methods thanks to things like alphas introducing way too many good IV Pokemon into the game at too fast of a pace. However, that does not mean making Pokeyen is impossible. It's just a little bit more difficult and you really have to be creative. Someone said something recently in a live stream that I couldn't agree with more. The best ways to find the best money-making methods in MMOs is by trying to find a hole or a gap in the market and filling that niche. Now, that's a difficult thing to do. It's not easy to recommend new players to try to kind of just find their own strategy because that usually requires thousands of hours of game knowledge and understanding. But today I'm going to show you guys a method that I want to test today, and I've discovered this by recently trying to play these storylines on a new account and just realizing how expensive certain Pokemon can be. Storyline Pokemon. You see, PokeMMO gets tons of new players constantly. So there are almost always new people trying to beat the storylines and even getting stuck in the storylines, as your first storyline is extremely difficult. So what do you do when your storyline is difficult? You get 4 gym badges and then you immediately go head over to the GTL and look for a powerful Pokemon to make things a bit easier. Something like a 20 plus attack, 20 plus speed, and IV's adamant nature Gyarados, which is going to cost you about 15,000 Pokeyen right now. When you cap the max level at level 20, which is what you're looking for a storyline Pokemon, a lot of the times you start running out of options very quickly. There's, a fair bit of adamant nature Gyarados, they're all about 15 to 18k. Lonelies, there's like almost none that exist. There is not enough supply for all the demand of good storyline Pokemon for cheap. But maybe these won't even sell. Maybe that demand isn't there. I'm here to test that today. Now, some of you guys might already guess what I plan to do today. I could actually breed, 20 plus IV Gyaradoses and Magikarps, things like that. That's also a decent idea, and I might try that again in the future. But today, I'm going to do something even simpler. I'm going to look up Magikarps, because yes, I could buy Gyaradoses, or I could go buy some Magikarps, XP train them up to level 20 or so, and just sell them off really easy peasy. So for example, here's a bunch of really cheap Magikarps. Is Lonely, Nature, level 5. I'm going to go ahead and buy this one. We're going to keep track of our costs on a calculator really quick though. I'm going to go ahead and just buy all 3 of these Magikarps. It's going to cost me 5k for those 2 and then another 4k. It's going to be 9k in total. Let's go to a different nature as well. The adamant ones still hold a pretty decent value, unfortunately. We're going to go check naughties, though, as well. Let's go check. Here's one for 1,500. Super cheap there. And then one for 5k and 6k. It's 11k. We'll go ahead and pick those up. So that's about 22,000 Pokeyen we've spent so far on these fellas. And let's mix up the species. You don't want to overcommit in the same species and kind of, get rid of your own market. Let's go check things like Sandile, Crocorox, Crocodiles. But if you go for these, you got to double check to make sure that they are the Moxie ability, because that is a huge price draw. And if you lower your stats from attack IV down to 15 and speed IV down to 15 at the minimum as well, you start to see an even crazier gap where Gyaradoses are still super expensive and there's not nearly enough Gyaradoses, but Magikarps get even cheaper. Look at all these, 2,000 Pokeyen Magikarps. I'm going to buy a fair bit of these, maybe like 20 or so, and see how many can sell in a few days. But I bought 1 there, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 Carps at about 1,200 a pop. That is 6,000 Pokeyen on top of our already 22k cost. So we're at 28k cost. But we now have 11 different storyline Pokemon to level up and sell. I'm going to get 9 more to make it an even 20. We got a ton more naughty nature ones, once again, with that 15 plus that are really cheap as well. So I'm going to go ahead and buy. These are about 13. That one's 1,200. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, a lot of those were 2k. I'm just going to guesstimate that those were about 1,800 a piece. So that's about 16,200 Pokeyen on top of our already 28k. So now in total, we have spent about 44,000 Pokeyens to start. Now, I did make a small mistake and buy 2 Magikarps that were level 37 and 38, but thankfully these levels still are kind of forgotten. I've been having a hard time buying Pokemon around these level on my other account as well. So hopefully I can still make some profit there, but it'll probably be less than the other lower level one. All right, I'm now going to go ahead and go start a stopwatch. I just started one on my phone. Go grab all of these Magikarps and then go XP train them over here in Unova. I think this is a really easy spot. It's going to speed EV train them. Yes, I could go to a better location, but most people are going to have access to this. It's a very, very common spot. You'll see. And you're either going to want 5 XP shares or an XP reamplifier for this. I'm going to go ahead and use the XP shares just since that's something that most people will have. Not everybody's going to have the reamplifier, and this will get you slightly less XP than the reamplifier. So I'm going to use the method that most people will have access to. We're going to go ahead and start beating down these hordes of Rapidash over to the left of what's it called, Lucanosa City in Unova. You can use a Pikachu like this with Sweet Scent PP Max to surf down all of the hordes. Speed EV training all your Magikarps while also leveling them up to level 20 or so. Now, you want to keep them level 20 or below if possible. They evolve into Gyarados level 20, so it's going to be at least level 20. Sometimes they're going to over level, and that's kind of okay. It's something you kind of just have to kind of deal with and acknowledge. People are still going to want them for the storyline. The only problem is that max obedience level 20 is what you want at the very beginning of the storyline, and they will have to beat one gym before having to buy that Pokemon. But a lot of times, people are looking for Pokemon after their 4th gym badge anyway. But that depends on whether or not they're in their first region, their 2nd, 3rd, or 4th, or 5th, etc. But I will just see you guys when I'm done leveling up all 20 of these Magikarps into Gyaradoses. All right, still in the grinding phase, but I wanted to run some numbers by you guys. I've just been calculating things. Obviously, our cost is once again 44,200 Pokeyen. If we calculate 20 of the Gyaradoses once we finish leveling them, and then multiply that by 14,000 Pokeyen, because I'll probably end up selling each Gyarados for 15k. Subtract the 1k listing fee, that is 14,000 Pokeyen profit per. That is 280,000 Pokeyen. Sorry, my calculator's off screen. Fuck it, we do it live. 280,000 Pokeyen minus our cost. It's going to end up being around 230,000 Pokeyen profit in whatever time it takes to do this. Now, that's what it really comes down to. Does this take 30 minutes to XP train? Does it take an hour? Keep in mind, if you use the XP reamplifier, it would also be 25% faster to level than what I'm currently doing. Also, if you went to, like, you know, Poliwrath or the, you know, certain other spots, it would be a lot faster. Like Donphan, the Dodrio spot, better XP spots. It would be a lot faster than what I'm doing. So I'm just showing you guys a very viable, very achievable for the average PokeMMO player method, but it's even going to be more Pokeyen per hour than what I'm showing. Now, the main problem is, a lot of people might be obviously noting, this is not this is not the type of money-making method that lasts very long. There are different types of money-making methods in PokeMMO. This is me filling a niche market. The point of this is to show you guys using the thought process of how to find niche markets, how to fill those strats and make Pokeyen and PokeMMO requires a lot of creativity right now compared to what it used to. Now, I have not been playing my main accounts. I actually haven't been playing it much over the past 5 to 6 months. I've been focusing on my Ironman account. So this is me hopping on my main account, trying to find a new strategy in a few minutes and just showing you guys what it looks like. So if I can do it, believe me, you can do it too. You're probably much smarter than me. This is also one of those money-making methods where you might want to check the upload date. You know, maybe 2 weeks after it's out, it's probably not going to be a very good money-making method. But maybe 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, people forget about it. That's where you find the best money-making methods in Pokemon, in my opinion. The guides that are a few months, maybe even a few years old, where people have phased out the method, forgotten about it, and now it's become profitable again. But once again, all these numbers and stuff are assuming that these Gyaradoses even sell. And I honestly don't know if they will. Usually on most of my money-making methods, I don't take the time to show you guys the sold listings. It's too much time for a daily creator, but I think it's crucial for this kind of method. So I will be listing everything and then checking in a few days later, maybe a week or two later, and seeing what sold and what didn't. All right, and this should be the final horde here. I believe this should get my Magikarp, my last one, up to level 20. Let's go ahead and double check. Boom, there it is. Here's the evolution. Once the evolution ends, I'm going to stop my time. Boom, there it is. We are done. Stop. The timer reads 33 minutes and 27 seconds. So about 34 minutes to XP train all these Gyaradoses. I'm now going to go list them off. And I think for speed, as well as the ease of everything, I'm going to go ahead and list all of these for around 15,000 Pokeyen, at least these 18. I'm going to double price check these to make sure if they go for the same thing. But if I sell these for 15k a piece, once again, we already kind of ran these calculations. It's going to be 252k. Let's go ahead and just get listing, and I'll see you guys after that. And hopefully I'll see you guys when they sell. I don't know if these are gonna end up selling for this price, but I'm gonna go ahead and try to list these for probably around 22k. I think that at the higher level, they're a little bit more specific, a little bit more awkward. I'm curious if these will sell for this price, but let's go ahead and list them both for around that. People want different storyline mons at those different prices, so that is plus 44k onto our price check. Once again, it only took us about half an hour of work. That's going to be 296,000 Pokeyen in terms of pure revenue. That's not profit. You then want to subtract our cost of around 45,000 Pokeyen plus the listing fees. That's going to be plus, so it's 45,000. Also subtracting Or you know what? Excuse me. I've already subtracted the listing fees. Excuse me. I did multiply by 14K. Yeah. We've already subtracted the listing fees. So excuse me. That math has already been done. So we are looking at an expected 251,000. Let's say 250K. 250K profit in 35 minutes or so of work if these all sell. That's the big question we're all wondering. And I'll hopefully see you guys soon with the answer. But if they do sell well in the next few days, we are looking at an over 400,000 Pokeyen profit per hour method, doing on the lower end, doing a method that's very, very achievable for everybody, just leveling Magikarps. All right, we are back after the 2-week sell period. I'm actually now sick, so excuse me if I sound a little bit funny. And we have some really good news and some not so great news. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think it shows the speed of the market as well as the kind of money-making routine of Pokemon right now, which is all about diversifying your money-making methods and not putting all your eggs or all of your Magikarps in one GTL or one basket like I did in this video. So we can see the important question, how many Gyarados actually sold? Okay, 9 right here on the first page, and then 10, 11, 12. So 12 out of 20 of the Gyarados did sell in that first rotation period. That's pretty good, although it's not, I don't know, it's not great for like 2 weeks. I do feel confident. Now the bright side is, I'm going to be honest, the sell speed is easily the worst part of this method. That is not good. That is not good that it took this long to sell that many. I am confident that if I were to take these down and relist them, that I would be able to sell them again another rotation. So that's the positive news, is I do feel confident that if I were to just relist these, it just comes down to how many new players are coming into the game and how many people are looking for these Gyarados. If I go check the market, like my Gyarados are still some of the best ones up on the market, except for one, I think one section, someone did undercut me, but that's, dude, it's all fair. When it comes to, you know, market and economy, all is fair in love and war type situation. Someone did undercut me. You can see here 13. They come undercut by like 1,000 Pokeyen on some of these Gyarados. And then if we go over to like Lonely and Naughty and stuff like that, my Gyarados are still kind of around the best price, at least the ones that I'm selling. And I've looked through to make sure, and like I don't think that these Gyarados sold because they were any worse than the other Gyarados. Like these Gyarados were very similar to the other Gyarados. The only difference is like there just wasn't enough demand for them in the current market to be able to get them all to sell, even though 12 out of 20 sold. But we still made some really good Pokeyen profit. And I do really feel comfortable saying that if I were to relist all of these, which I'm going to go do here in a quick sec, but not show you guys that, I do feel really confident that these will sell in one more rotation, but taking 2 to 4 weeks to sell stuff is not ideal. So previously I was at about 250,000 Pokeyen profit in 35 minutes, which is absolutely ludicrous. I'm going to go ahead and lower this expectation to about 230K to factor in the relisting costs and potentially lowering a little bit of price on these Gyarados, but really just relisting costs. And here you can see on the bottom left in this notepad document, this is my final breakdown of my final evaluation of this money making method. It is pretty crazy in the fact that I was able to do this in 35 minutes of work. The hard part is the patience of waiting for everything to actually sell. I'm gonna go ahead and start claiming this stuff here in a quick sec as well, but I was able to make effectively 230,000 Pokeyen profit in 35 minutes of work, which is going to be over 400,000 Pokeyen profit per hour. But once again, it's not something that's super sustainable. You definitely need to be switching up the species of Pokemon you are using and switching up your money making activities in Pokemon in the current metagame. You cannot be making hundreds of Gyaradoses and flooding the Gyarados economy. The Pokeyen per hour, in my opinion, is absolutely S tier. I think something that is 400,000 Pokeyen plus Pokeyen per hour is really freaking good. That is like hyper endgame money, as well as the fact that you only need to be able to like EV train to do this method is kind of ludicrous. The barrier to entry to this method is insanely low. And as you can see, the biggest problem with this method is the sell speed. I'm actually going to change that to a D. I think giving it a D plus is honestly too generous. There are things that are worse, things like shiny flips, like really niche shiny flips. There are things that take longer to sell than this in Pokemon for sure. But 2 to 4 weeks, in my opinion, is definitely quite slow, especially for this level of Pokemon, this level of money made. That is the biggest thing holding back this money making method, and it is something that must be considered. However, factoring in once again the S tier money per hour and then the D tier sell speed, I'm gonna give this money making method a like B minus, maybe a C plus. You could argue a C plus or B minus. I think it's still a really solid score and definitely a money making method worth considering. I think that this is the perfect kind of money-making method that you want to check back on like every 3 months or so and just see how it's doing in the economy, or switch around to different Pokemon, things like Porygon Z's, Galades, Crocodiles. Check out tons of lists and guides that I have or other creators have on their channels, talking about what are some good Pokemon for storylines, and then sort of just EV training those up to level 20 or so, and then selling them. It really requires, once again, very little barrier to entry, very little effort, very little time. It just takes a lot of time. It's the patience to get those selling listings off, which is not always ideal when you're newer to the game.
you want access to that liquidity and access to that capital even faster. So I understand why you'd be a little more hesitant as a newer player wanting to do this method. But if you have the patience, if you only have a few hours a day to play PokeMMO, this is the kind of activity that's perfect for you. When you only have so much time to play the game, you don't mind waiting for those long listing fees. This is the perfect kind of method for someone who has a wife and kids and a busy job and all these things, right? Because you can just go ahead and do this, let things, be patient, let things sell and wait, and then come back a month later and have plenty of Pokeyen to do whatever you want to do in the game. All right, but I hope I covered this money-making method well enough. I hope it was helpful to some of you guys out there. If it was, let me know by leaving a like on the video. Dislike if you just did not like this at all. It wasn't helpful to you. That's okay. Let me know your feedback. Comments down below. Subscribe for daily Pokemon videos every single day. Follow me on Twitch for streams, usually Monday through Thursday at 12 p.m. ET. Discord's down below if you're interested in that. If you want to go above and beyond and support the content, YouTube memberships, Twitch Primes, Twitch subs, and PayPal and Venmo really do keep the lights on and allow me to be here at all. Thank you guys for your help. Good luck in PokeMMO, and hopefully this helps you guys make some Pokeyen. Yo, what's up? Outro Patrouski here. I wanted to take this second to say thank you so much for watching the entire video. It is thanks to people like you I'm able to make the content that I do, as well as everybody whose name is listed here. That's it for me. Have a fantastic day.